Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Sade. Thank y'all so much for joining me for my astrology talk. For today, we are diving into what it means when you have your rising in the sign of Leo. So, this is not if your sun is in Leo or if your moon is in Leo. This is if your rising, your first house, also known as the ascendant, is in the sign of Leo. Now, before I get started, if you have not checked out any of my astrology videos on the difference between your sun, moon, your rising, as well as what the sign Leo means, the archetype really means in astrology, feel free to check that out on my channel, Hidden Alchemy. I have tons and tons of astrology videos where you can dive in and find all this amazing, cool information. For the sake of this video, let's dive into having your rising in the sign of Leo. Now, first of all, Leo is masculine, it is ruled by the sun, and it is a fixed sign. And the sun usually likes to be in the first house or the fifth house, as well as the ninth house. But the sun is exalted in the first house mainly and is very comfortable in the fifth house. So if you are a Leo rising or your ascendant is in Leo, you are embodying this sun energy of life, of vitality, of passion, of love, of leadership, and most importantly, of wanting to be seen. Leo in the first house, especially if you have your sun naturally in the first house, this indicates a person who wants to be seen for their creative talents, who wants to be noticed for their leadership qualities, and who really wants to be a leader in other people's life, not to control them in their journey, but to inspire people and to really take on the load of being the responsible lion that is the king or the queen of their home, or if it's their job, they're the king and the queen of their castle, especially if they've built a certain level of leadership in their career or just in whatever prestige that they're in. Maybe it's their home life, maybe it's their career, or even with their friends. Being looked upon as a leader is very important to people with the Leo sign in the first house. Now, if you are a woman or identifying woman with Leo in the first house, this is going to indicate very masculine energy that you portray. You portray the energy of independence, you portray the energy of courage, of confidence, and of presence. And this is also for a man too that has Leo in the first house. But if you're a man with Leo in the first house, you are moving with masculine energy while already embodying the natural masculine tendencies that men are able to tap into quicker than women. But if you are a woman with Leo in the first house, you are giving off that masculine energy of presence, of leadership, of courage, and especially of pride. Leo in the first house, and this is definitely a plus as well as somewhat of a downfall for Leo in the first house. Everything has its pluses and its minuses to bring balance. But Leo in the first house, it brings this sense of ego. There is ego in everything that you do. And whatever archetype that you've created, whatever ego archetype that you've created for yourself, that is going to be the ego that you are fixed in, because Leo is a fixed sign. Having Leo in the first house or having Aquarius in the first house is really, really fixed on how they identify themselves. And Leo in the first house, it's very hard for these folks to see outside of themselves, because Leo is the sun. The sun sees itself, the sun shines on everyone else and wants to be seen. So these folks have a hard time seeing outside of themselves, especially if they have this Leo in the first house, which can sometimes cause a little bit of issues with their relationships and pertaining to work. These are people who do not like to work for other people. They do not like to be told what to do. They like to be the bosses and leaders of their life. And this can also take shape in their relationships as well. These are people who can sometimes come across as very headstrong, very stubborn, and very egotistical because they have a lot of pride in how they feel about themselves. The sign Leo comes after Cancer, and I always say in my astrology videos that the sign always pulls from the previous sign. So the previous sign of Leo is Cancer, which deals with our emotions, how we are internally feeling on a raw level. Leo then takes from this Cancer energy and likes to portray the pride that they have in how they feel about themselves, the courage that they have in how they feel about their capabilities and their duties and responsibilities. And because it's fixed, they can really stay a little stagnant in this ego and how they portray themselves, which makes it hard for them to adapt and adjust to change. Now, the deeper reasoning behind this is because the first house is naturally ruled by Aries, which is cardinal. So when you put a fixed sign in a cardinal house, the intention of cardinal energy is to initiate change, initiate movement for other signs to follow. Leo is already fixed in their archetype of how they want to express themselves and move in the world. So at times where the energy might not be needed, or the energy of Leo might need to adjust or adapt, or the sun might need to, calm down a little bit, it can be really hard for these folks to change that aspect because, again, they're fixed in their archetype of what they base their ego on, and they pride themselves a lot on what they believe and what they feel about themselves. Again, Leo has a hard time seeing outside of themselves. So they like to push forward with a lot of self-power, willpower, assurance, and self-reliance. And this is what can make being in partnerships with Leo rising a little bit challenging. Fun nonetheless, because they are going to love to have this zest for life and want to take leadership and want to make sure things are okay. But because they have so much willpower, it's very hard for them to ask for help. It's very hard for them to allow other people to kind of see them on a softer level and assist them through whatever they need help with because of that pride that they move in the world with. That's the difference between the sun and the rising. The sun is your conscious personality and tools that you can really carry with you. But the first house is really how you move and how you operate in the world around you, and how other people are witnessing that energy and how you move and how you operate. So deep down, a person can have, a Cancer moon or a Cancer sun, but have a Leo rising, and they're going to portray this energy of duty, of leadership, and not really letting too many people in to assist them and help them. Now, when I talk about the first house, I've mentioned this in my previous astrology videos. Whenever you're dealing with the first house, you always want to look to see where Aries is in your chart. And the reason being is because Aries is the first sign. So you cannot start at the fifth sign, which is Leo. You got to always start at the first, work your way back to really exude and use your rising energy to its fullest potential. So for folks who are Leo risings, Aries is in your ninth house, which is the house of travel, the house of philosophy, the house of teaching, and the house of your belief systems, your religious belief systems, your spiritual belief systems, as well as your studies and your foreign travel. These are folks who do very well when they remove themselves from their home environment and travel abroad. And it also doesn't necessarily have to only be abroad, but these are folks that can really learn a lot more about themselves and a lot more about their leadership qualities through studying philosophical texts, tapping into their spirituality, and foreign travels. Now, the reason why this can be challenging for people who are Leo risings is because the fourth house, right? So Leo's in the first house, which means that all of the foundational houses are going to be fixed. What does that mean? Your foundational houses are 1, 4, 7, and 10. These are the cardinal houses that really solidify the foundations for how you move and operate in the world and the rest of your houses. So when you have Leo in the first house, that means that you have Scorpio in the fourth house. And the challenge with this is childhood might have been a pretty turbulent time. And the relationship with your mother or your maternal figure might not have been the most supportive. Scorpio can rule a lot of secrecy. It can rule a lot of fears, a lot of phobia. It can also rule just darkness, right? Things that are hidden from the public. Maybe you came from a family that appeared a certain way, but deep down in the home, there were a lot of secrets in the home. The mom could have, or the maternal figure maybe wasn't as emotionally supportive, or maybe was emotionally manipulative to the child. And also what I notice when I see Mars energy or Pluto energy in the fourth house, there could have been a lot of fears and phobias that you obtained from your parents or from your ancestors. And there could have also maybe been any type of manipulation, molestation, maybe being preyed upon in the family as well, especially if you are, it could be for a woman or a man, but definitely when I see this in a woman's chart, I really dive deeper into what was the family lineage, how were things in the home. whatever relationship that a Leo rising has to the maternal parent is going to have a psychological effect on them, because that is Scorpio. It rules your psyche on a deep, darker level. So these folks can have a lot of fears and a lot of subconscious phobias, and that's why their need for control is very apparent when you have a Leo rising. So this can affect your ability, or it can affect your wanting to go somewhere brand new where you've never been before, to dive into something, a study that you've never studied before, to learn a philosophical text. Because the reality of Leo is fixed in what they're great at. You know, Leos are very creative, but they're creative in what they feel comfortable in. Aries is really going to bring that energy of, I've never been down this path. I've never tried this thing before. Let me go ahead and give it a try just because. Who knows? Leo is not really like that. Leo is fixed. And with Leo being in the first house, that need for control because of what happened in your childhood. So these are folks who are really going to have to get out of their comfort zone of what makes them feel like a leader and dive into foreign travels, dive into philosophical studies, because this is going to help to strengthen their first house energy. Now, going back to the foundational houses for Leo risings, there is Aquarius in the 7th house, which rules our relationships with people, with business, with work, as well as romance. And the good thing about Aquarius in the 7th house is it is going to be very practical in how they are in their relationships with people. A lot of practicality, a lot of responsibility and duty, because Aquarius is co-ruled by Saturn as well. However, in terms of romance, what I notice with Leo risings, my mom is a Leo rising as well as a Leo moon, is the relationship with a romantic partner can sometimes be a little detached. And that's because Aquarius is not the most emotional sign. And Leo rules the heart. But because Leo can sometimes have a hard time seeing outside of themselves, right? They are the ones that are moving from the heart. And they might attract a partner who's going to be the opposite sign of them, which is Aquarius. And that person can bring the practicality, but they might be lacking in the warmth. They might be lacking in the heart, the romance aspect. So these folks have to be very mindful of whoever they get into any type of partnership with, whether it be business or romance. Just make sure that this is a partnership where both people want to be in it and not one person doing things for the sake of duty and responsibility. Because this is how Leo risings can get taken advantage of when other people see your worth and see your value and your shining and your brightness, right? But they're really in the relationship for the monetary gain or for the exchange that they're getting, rather than really being in it from their heart. Now, moving from the 7th house, we have the 10th house, which is Taurus. And what I mentioned in the earlier part of the video is Leo risings are folks who really like to work on their own. They like to have a team, but they want to be the leader of the team. And when you have Taurus in the 10th house, the problem with that is you tend to be the person that works in environments where people are leaning on you, but you might not be the boss of those environments, because Taurus is a sign of Venus. It's support, right? So you might be the support to someone else who's a boss. You might be the assistant to someone else who's the boss, but you are not the boss. And this is where Leo risings can have a little bit of an issue, because they want to be that leader. They want to be seen as that person that is in charge and leading and guiding other people. But with Taurus in this 10th house, Venus being in that house of career, duty, responsibility, you can sometimes end up being in the assistant role of helping other people build up their business, or be the leader in their life, or be the leader in the lives of other people. Let me rephrase that. You can be the assistant who helps other people be the leader in lives of other people. That's what I meant to say. So with your Aries energy in that 9th house, you really have to tap into your capability of, stepping outside of your comfort zone, so that you can feel empowered to really be this leader and lead with that Leo presence that you have. All in all, Leo in the first house, lovers, romancers, presence, confidence, as well as inspiring other people to show up in that light of regalness, of confidence, and really doing well in diplomacy. I will definitely say Leo risings carry themselves to a standard. And when they are in relation, it's not about being the dictator, but it's about being the leader that knows and understands how to be diplomatic, but wants to be recognized for their importance and their boss energy as well. But in any case, y'all, that's all I have for Leo rising folks. Please let me know if you are a Leo rising, how this resonates with you. I would love to hear. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all for our next video.